Yeah, I'm down.
All right, cool. So, anyways,
As we head into our third quarter of conversation, definitely, one of the big games coming up here is that NBA All Star game coming to Atlanta, and All Star festivities. It is going to look a little different this year, obviously, with COVID and the whatnots, but the All Star game is still happening, and it's been really interesting to hear some of the players' takes on the All Star game. Rutledge.
what great players takes do you have about the All-Star game?
You know, it's a lot of fun to see all these players out. I think that one of my one of my favorite players and favorite people to watch is always going to be Kevin Durant. See how many burner phones he has, and get to see how he handles everything surrounding the All Star game. I think it'll be also interesting to see how much LeBron James actually wants to be there. That is, there's been a lot of talk about players not wanting to be there, players not wanting to have the game, things like that. So definitely going to be an interesting weekend for sure.
It will be a big weekend. I still can't get over that I have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory as I was winning that game and decided to restart. And now I'm down 4-0.
You
Um,
know that you are Rutledge, that you are.
we're on the board.
So on the board, what do you think, Rutledge? How are you? How do you think this? What are some of the big storylines and some of the big players that you're going to be following in the All Star game?
So I do want to announce that it came out tonight. This is totally off what we have. Is it came out tonight? We have the starting five for each team, and it is Team LeBron versus uh, Team Durant. But here's what I have that's interesting: is that the remaining seven came out. So these are the supporting players that will be on each team. Um, Nikola Vucevic is actually going to be an All-Star player this year, which is exciting for our Orlando Magic that Connor and I support.
He's now a
James,
multi-time All Star, Nick Vucevic.
which is pretty awesome to have Vucevic as an All-Star. With if Orlando didn't have the injuries, they probably would have been deeper this year. But there's one person on the West roster that I don't think should go to the All-Star game, and it's not LeBron James. It's actually Anthony Davis. If there's anything that we've seen with the Lakers' most recent skid, plus how dominant they were in the playoff, plus it's also been tracked that if LeBron and AD don't play together, if AD's not there, the Lakers don't do as well score wise. If LeBron's not there, the Lakers don't do as well um, defensively. So those two need to be together in order to make a championship run. I don't think that AD should play um, in the All Star game or should go. It's cool that he got picked up, but even though he's still hurt with some leg issues, I think he should sort of dodge it. So it's
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and especially right. I think the big thing about the All Star game is the fact that it's such a it's a lot of name recognition. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the NBA All Star game or even the Pro Bowl, right? It's all right. AD is the second best team on the champion that just so happens to play in LA.
mhm.
What do you think is going to happen? He's got the unibrow, right? He's got the swag. And yeah, I think he'll be there in a boot, and he'll be shaking people's hands, and actually won't be shaking anybody's hands, but he'll be there for the photo ops and whatnot. But
Yeah.
um, in terms of actual literal All Star, not my number one choice. Rudy Gobert would probably be a more deserving All Star, seeing as he's the center on the number one Utah Jazz. But I don't blame the NBA for making sure that all their stars are out, where there's going to be a lot of television watched for the All Star game.
I agree. So while we have time, since we have so much more showtime tonight to cover, this is the reserving seven that were announced tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT as part of their pre-show for the Wednesday night doubleheader that they have. Shot goes in. The West seven is Anthony Davis, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, and Zion are all on the West team as the reserves, not the starting five.
Dude, I love Zion. He's the
I
man.
I am got so much respect for Zion. First of all, I love that the sponsor on the Pelicans jersey is just Zatarans, just that rice that I would eat. It's like, oh, I don't know
Oh,
how to
yeah.
make jambalaya, but this box does. Zatarans.
There was a story that came out about Stan Van Gundy when he spent time teaching, he would literally make kids cry.
That's
And then
amazing.
when he coached Lamar Odom, there was a quote from Lamar Odom that he said he literally thought for a while that his name was MFer because that's the only thing that Stan Van Gundy would say to him.
That's very motivational. That's great coaching. Good
I,
stuff.
I, I always remember watching Stan when he coached the Magic. Um, he would just be coaching his heart out, and then be Hito Turkoglu just sitting on the bench looking so incredibly uninterested in everything that was going on. But he was shooting threes before it was cool.
That was before it was cool. So there's someone else that shoots threes that makes it cool who I want to talk about in a minute. There's a foul. Here's the West 7 that was announced tonight. Once again, it was released at 7 o'clock this evening. The West 7, the backups are Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Zach LaVine from the Bulls, Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, and our own Orlando Vucevic, which I think he should have a nickname that's like Vucci, but I feel like that's disrespectful. Um,
Oh, Vooch. When
old,
I started watching Vucevic play right when he was drafted out, I always say he'd have the quietest big impact of any player. Like he'd be the guy you'd go through those games, and then all of a sudden you'd look up on the stats, you go, "Oh, Vooch had a double double with
yeah,
like 18 rebounds and 11 points."
it's
He's been a really consistent player for Orlando throughout his career, and it kind of stinks to see just the fact that he had has not played on a lot of good teams, but um, it is nice to see that he hasn't been a guy who's been traded around a lot through the league.
which Orlando was known to do. They had Victor Oladipo, who was at one point kind of a star for the system, but they traded him. And of course, there was always the famous Orlando trade of Shaq, who Shaq still has come out to this day. Connor, I know it breaks your heart, but he said he would have stayed in Orlando if he could have done it all over again.
In a lot of ways, he did stay in Orlando, a la where his house is.
That's a la his house. And that blue roof shows that some color choices are bold. Um, let's talk starters of the All-Star game. So Doc Rivers is coaching the East. The East starting lineup is going to be Giannis, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving, and they will play against the West, which is going to be coached by Quinn Snyder, who is the head coach of the Utah Jazz. And on there is Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, um, and Jokic. So, with hearing all these lineups, essentially the big three for the Nets made the All Star game, which means they just get more practice together. Connor, what are you kind of feeling with these lineups going in?
I think that the starters for the East, or pardon me, the starters for the East are better than the starters for the West, especially right now, man. And I think hats off to Bradley Beal. Could have packed it in, with all the controversy around, trading, some of the trades to bring Westbrook into the squad, and yet again, just not being a part of a big time team. Kudos to him, but I think that the reserves for the West are better. All that to be said, it is the All Star game, so it's going to be a ton of fun to watch because there's going to be nary any defense that's played. So that's always a blast. I think the over under should be about 400 points.
The last All Star game, which the West has won all of the last 10 except for one. I think the last All Star game, the score was 192 to 189. So it'll
So
be a
I'm
high
saying
score.
400 points.
It'll be a high scoring affair. It'll be a ton of fun to watch. I'm really excited for this All Star game lineup. I'm with you. With basically the Nets big three together, the East does feel like it's got kind of an advantage going into this affair. We'll see how hard the players try based on the kind of wanting to be there, kind of not wanting to be there. I am with you as well, Bradley Beal. This is actually his first All-Star game that he got voted into. He was a reserve the past couple years, but he has been putting up monster numbers and is doing extremely well for a Wizards team that is now starting to click. But when they were first got it going with Westbrook, they were struggling. I think they're at one point bottom in the league, or at least
Mm-hmm.
bottom in their section of the league. So big shout out to him. Um, I also
And
find this,
came through all over the place. Draw that foul. No
yeah,
easy buckets.
no, no easy buckets as you go throwback nets. I saw that you snuck that in there when we booted this thing up. Um,
Hey, if you gotta always be have a little sneakiness up your sleeve.
you always have to have a little sneakiness up their sleeves. So I have this other really cool fact that uh, this All-Star game, besides happening during this very interesting time, has a record of it. This has 5 international players voted in, which is the most international players. Those players, of course, are Giannis, Kyrie, Joel Embiid, Luka, and then Jokic. So I thought that was really cool that the league is getting. I think that shows that the NBA is really starting to make an impact worldwide, to where you have players sort of coming from all over to join in.
Yeah, it's not just your kind of token one international player anymore. I mean, there's a lot of big time players for sure. Um, but so Rutledge, as we enter what's kind of like the fourth quarter, should we get into our fourth quarter topic?
We should get into our fourth quarter topic. Before we do that, Connor, give me your pick for winner of the All Star game.
Winner of the All Star game, I'm going to go West, and furthermore, I'm going to say Luca is All Star game MVP.
Oh, I am actually going to go West, but I am going to take MVP as Steph Curry. Steph is third in scoring in the league and leads the league in threes. So I think he's going to be chewing on his. I'm pretty sure he's chewing on Invisalign nowadays, but he's going to be chewing on his braces, and he's just going to be draining threes. As you said, the defense will be low, so I think he will come out to play.
Mm-hmm.